Hey everyone, I hope that you're as stoked for the lower kit as I was right before I got mine. I'm gonna link in the description below to my previous video about the benefits of raising or lowering a one wheel. In short, if you raise it, you get better clearance. If you lower it, you get better stability. Also gonna link to my last video about the rave reviews of people first stepping on the lowered GT. The initial impressions were that it felt really good, but a lot of you asked us to test the lowered GT in conditions where it would do the worst. So going up steep hills, going down steep hills where the tail might drag, as well as quick acceleration and braking, or even on flat ground, the clearance will have some effect. So we did some testing, lowered versus stock height GT, both on enduro tires. Overall, my opinion stands that this lower kit is what the GT needs. You will not see me riding a GT without a lower kit unless I happen to be riding someone else's board. We did find that the lowered GT was noticeably worse than stock at hill climbing, especially when we tested without getting momentum and just starting at the bottom of a hill. Because on a hill with a 38% grade, for example, you're going to be scraping or almost scraping your front bumper on the lowered GT, and so the board will think that you're just not trying to accelerate that much, and you'll slow down until you stop. Should note that this can be negated by putting the board in elevated mode, but that means you're taking your phone out and changing the settings every time you go uphill, and then again when the uphill section is over, so not ideal. The lower kit actually did great on the acceleration and braking test on flat ground. It has much better acceleration than the XR, and the question is, how does it compare against the stock GT? So I raced Jeff where we had to go about 100 feet, slow down and make a U-turn, and then come back, and then we switched boards and repeated. Had to slow all the way down to like 3 miles an hour to make the U-turn. And the stock height GT just barely beat out the lowered board. I will say, if you regularly ride over 20 miles an hour, then the lower kit is not for you, because I tested it at 23 on flat ground, which is the same as my top speed on a stock GT, and with the steep pushback at 23, your tail is so close to the ground that it's just not safe if you need to brake suddenly in any sort of city or traffic situation. Before pushback though, under 20, I feel completely safe riding the lowered GT. I've actually been riding it around town quite a bit, and I am riding noticeably faster than I ride my XR around, because the XR pushback had trained me to keep it under 17 or 18 in traffic. And on the lowered GT, I feel quite confident up to 20. I don't know if that's a good thing. If you had asked me before if I needed my XR to go faster, I would have said no, but I am riding my lower GT around faster, and I feel totally safe and able to brake in a reasonable amount of time, and it's pretty easy to avoid scraping my tail if I focus on braking by moving my hips back instead of moving my tail down. Keep in mind, my personal experience is as a 140-pound rider. I did some testing with Brandon Lang, who weighs 230. We had a very steep hill that we could both make it up on a stock GT, although it was difficult. I could still make it up on the lowered board, but with much heavier scraping on the bumper. And for him, the lowered board did cause him to no longer be able to make it up the ramp. I also ride in a pretty flat city. If you're living in San Francisco or a city with really steep hills, the lower kit probably not for you either. I had a blast riding this lowered board at the skate park at the ORL qualifiers last weekend. The lowered GT did really well on the steep ramps. I got around the skate park with very little scraping, nose or tail. Had a great time. I actually raced on the lowered board, which was, if you saw, a downhill pump track, so literally the worst case scenario for a lowered board. And I placed 20th, which is pretty much what I expected to do on any board, just based on my previous race times. If I wanted to go faster, I would have probably needed a stock height GT to go faster. But I also didn't really want to go faster because fast is danger, and I just wanted to not fall. Some people asked about using this as a lift kit. Personally, I think so few people would be interested in that I didn't even try to design a lift. We might do a video where we install these upside down and try them as a lift kit, but they'd probably come loose after hard riding because you'd be relying entirely on the strength of the bolts holding them secure instead of the top of the blocks sitting flush against the lip of the rails. Anyways, all the info for the pre-order is in the description below. If you want to pre-order, check out the description. There is a link to the Float Life website. Thanks for watching, and float on, my friends.